fella asked me there this morning on my YouTube channel if I'd do a video on a gym instructor who has lost his or her job because they don't believe in gay marriage. I'm not sure whether it was a man or woman that lost a job, and I don't know the details. I would do a video about it, if only to make a point about having personal or private beliefs about, for example, gay marriage and the law of the land. In other words, since 2015, gay marriage in Ireland is permissible, because in 2015, with the will of the people, we changed our constitution in a way that permits gay marriage. So that's the law of the land. So this person who has lost their job are perfectly entitled to hold their own personal, private views, but they're not entitled to impose those views on the rest of society who have engaged in a democratic process in a referendum to change the constitution. Similarly, you have Enoch Burke, who has particular views about gender recognition and transition of genders from male to female, say, or female to male, etc. And again, we have a situation there where Enoch Burke is perfectly entitled to hold his own personal, private views about what he calls transgenderism, but what other people will see as gender recognition. But the reality is that we've the Gender Recognition Act on the statute books since 2015. So in both of these cases, you have an individual who is perfectly entitled to hold a personal or private view about a matter which may be of religious connotation for them or of religious significance to them, or it may be of some other significance. But the bottom line is they are not permitted to simply ignore the law of the land and say, I don't believe in gay marriage, or I don't believe in gender recognition, or I don't believe a person can change their gender from male to female or vice versa, and I'm going to ignore the law of the land. That's not permitted. And if that was permitted, then you're going to have a scenario where you have every person deciding that a particular law with which they didn't agree is not going to be applicable to them. For example, it's gone very dark there now. For example, if I was to decide that I didn't believe the Road Traffic Act should apply to persons driving through Enfield, for example, and they shouldn't have to reduce their speed to 50 kilometres an hour or whatever it is, it would be an appalling situation if people were to decide they were going to pick and choose what laws to adhere to and what laws to uphold. So, yeah, I can make a video, no problem, about the person who has lost their job because they don't believe in gay marriage. But whether they believe it or not, gay marriage is a thing. It's a thing in Ireland, and it's the law of the land since 2015, when the people expressed their view in a referendum in the 34th or 35th change amendment to the Irish Constitution. So that is the position there. As I say, anybody's entitled to hold their own private personal view, but they're not entitled to make their own laws. They're entitled to have their own opinion, but again, they're not entitled to pick and choose which laws they're going to adhere to and which laws they're not going to adhere to. So that is my view, and the question of constitutional rights doesn't really arise, quite frankly, because constitutional rights are not without qualification. In other words, we all have constitutional rights, but they're not without qualification, they're not without boundaries. And a person's right to do something in accordance with the Constitution may well conflict with somebody else's right to do something in accordance with the Constitution. For example, a person has the right of free speech, freedom of expression, but another person has a right to their good name and reputation. So you have defamation on the one hand, you have freedom of speech on the other hand, and you often have a conflict between two competing rights from two competing individuals or groups. And that's just the nature of the law, but the bottom line is constitutional rights are not unbounded, they're not unrestricted, they're not unconditional. They are conditional. They do have certain boundaries, certain qualifications on them. And that's, why a person's right to not recognise gay marriage is fine, but they can't basically impose that view on other people when society has decided in its wisdom to vote for gay marriage. And likewise with the Gender Recognition Act of 2015, again, many people don't agree with that. That's fine, but they can go and compete or try to change the law, try and amend the law, but they're not entitled to just ignore the law, because the law of the land is the law of the land. Anyway, hope you find the video useful. If you do, would appreciate if you give it the thumbs up down below. Just down the canal bank here in Enfield. It's not a bad day. It's a little bit dull, but it's not bad. It's a nice, pleasant place to come down on lunch break. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Hit the thumbs up button if you do. Thank you very much.